All right, so the MLB season is right around the corner, and I wanted to do a fun prediction video that I could look back on at the end of the year and come back to. I wanted to predict the top 25 pitchers for the 2025 MLB season. So I want to come back to this video in October or November and then hope that these guys were actually ranked 1 through 25 throughout this year. I do have a bunch of honorable mentions that were very tough to leave off this ranking. I will give you guys those honorable mentions after number 21 before we get into the top 20 so I don't spoil any of the next picks. So let's start off with number 25. It's someone that is going to be a free agent at the end of this year, so we can have that stereotypical walk year season from him, and that is Michael King of the San Diego Padres, a pitcher that broke out in the 2024 season. He was included in the Juan Soto trade, and he had a very good end to the 2023 season for the Yankees, and then was a full-time starter in 2024, where he had career highs across the board, career high in innings, where he threw for over 170 innings. He had a ERA of a 2.95. He had a 4.1 BWAR in that season, a 139 ERA plus, and finished 7th in NL Cy Young voting. He's someone that can produce a lot of ground balls, and he's going to have a good defense behind him yet again in San Diego. Like I said, it's a walk year for him, so if he does get traded midway through the year, I still think he can be a top 25 pitcher. He was one last year. I expect him to be one again. So coming in at number 24, it's someone that had a really rough start to the 2024 season, and that is going to be Pablo Lopez of the Minnesota Twins. In the first half of the 2024 season, Lopez allowed a 723 OPS against him and pitched to a 5.11 ERA in 104 innings, but was much better in the second half of the year. In 13 starts, he had a 2.77 ERA in 81 innings pitched. I think he can carry that momentum from the end of the 2024 season into 2025. Fangraphs is even projecting Pablo Lopez to finish 12th in F4 this season for a pitcher. I don't like him that much this year, but I do think he could still be one of the best pitchers in the AL Central. But the underlying metrics really did like his second half of the season. I do think he's going to replicate what he did in those few months. And he also does have a wide range. I think more so Michael King, he has a higher floor, but a lower ceiling this year. I think Pablo Lopez has a lower floor, but a much higher ceiling. Like, there is a chance that Pablo Lopez could finish 5th in AL Cy Young. I think I would be a little bit surprised if Michael King finished top 5 in NL Cy Young. And if you want to talk about crazy first half, second half splits, look no further than Hunter Brown of the Houston Astros, a pitcher I love in the 2025 season and could be a dark horse AL Cy Young candidate. In the first half of last year's season, he appeared in 19 games. He had a 4.39 ERA and he allowed 14 home runs and a whip of a 1.37. In the second half, in 12 starts, 71 innings, a 2.26 ERA, he only allowed 4 home runs. And Hunter Brown is somebody that throws 5 pitches. He has a fastball, a slider, a cutter, a changeup, a sinker, and he even throws a knuckle curve. And I wouldn't be surprised if he finished number 1 in that Astros rotation in terms of WAR this season. There's going to be another Astro we will mention though. I'm riding hot waves of the 2024 second half. Coming in at number 22, somebody that could be a breakout candidate in the NL this year. Kind of broke out last year in the second half. Spencer Schwellenbach of the Atlanta Braves. Schwellenbach only threw 123 innings last year, but was phenomenal after getting called up for the Atlanta Braves. He had a 3.35 ERA in 21 starts. He had a very good FIP, ERA plus, strikeouts per 9 is around a 9.2. And I think there are pitchers every year like a Spencer Schwellenbach and a Hunter Brown that everybody comes around and says this will be a guy that breaks out into a new tier this season. And while I do think there is a chance that Schwellenbach is not a top 35 or 40 pitcher in the MLB this year, I do think he's a very safe candidate to be the second best pitcher, maybe on a reliability standpoint, in the Atlanta Braves rotation, because you got Chris Sale, you have Spencer Strider, but there's always the health concerns now with Spencer Strider coming back from a major injury. Schwellenbach can produce a ton of whiff, he can get ground balls, and I do think he's going to be a top 25 pitcher this year. The Braves are stacked. And before I reveal the honorable mentions, let's talk about my 21st ranked pitcher for this year, Freddie Peralta of the Milwaukee Brewers. A lot of people thought that Freddie Peralta could have been competing for an NL Cy Young award last year. He was a little bit disappointing to start off the year. In 32 starts, he did have 173 innings, a 3.68 ERA, and a 4.1 FIP. So there's a chance that Freddie Peralta will not take that leap this year, but he was so good for the Braves in that 2021 season. He was an all-star. He hasn't really recaptured that magic he had in that 2021 season, but I do think this is going to be another safe season from Freddie Peralta. I would be kind of shocked if he finished top 5 in NL Cy Young voting. I think he is what he is, but that is going to be around a top 25 starting pitcher every single year, and that is huge in the modern MLB. So before I get into the top 20, I do want to give guys that just missed the cut that I could definitely see being top 25 pitchers at the end of the year. Sandy Alcantara, I'm just a little bit worried about the innings limit in Miami, and there's a chance he could get traded this year. I also have Aaron Nola just missing it, but I'm perfectly fine if he makes the top 25. He's super reliable in terms of innings and health every single year. I also have his teammate over there in Philadelphia, Christopher Sanchez, who a lot of people are also predicting to break out, like Hunter Brown and Spencer Schwellenbach this year, and he could be a dark horse NL Cy Young top 10 finisher. I also have Hunter Green. I think Hunter Green is a very risky player to put in your top 25. He's somebody that does get hurt quite often. He did have a career high 150 innings last year, but if he could stay healthy, he could definitely finish as a top 25 pitcher in the league because he was a top 10 Cy Young finisher last year. I do have Seth Lugo of the Kansas City Royals. He's getting up there in age, but was phenomenal last year for Kansas City. And then I also have two more guys. First one is George Kirby. I just don't know about the health this year. I do think he could be a top 20 pitcher and one day win an AL Cy Young award. I just don't think it's going to come this year with him already starting off the season on the injured list. And I do have Roki Sasaki also just missing this list as well. I thought it would have been a little bit too soon for him to make the list, but I could definitely see him being a top 25 pitcher. And I also don't have Ohtani either because I don't think he's going to pitch enough innings this season. So coming in at number 20, somebody that's just kind of boring, but is just super reliable every single season. He's currently on a team that may be entering into a rebuild. He's 35 years old, and that is Sonny Gray of the St. Louis Cardinals. The last 3 years, Sonny Gray has been a top 15 pitcher in the MLB. In 2022 for Minnesota, he finished with a 3.08 ERA. In 2023, he was phenomenal for Minnesota. He finished runner-up in the Cy Young voting to Garrett Cole, and he had a 2.79 ERA for the Twins, and then he signed that 3-year, $75 million contract with the St. Louis Cardinals in the 2024 offseason. And last year, he still pitched to a 3.84 ERA and was probably his worst year since 2021, but he is one of the highest floors out of anybody we're going to talk about in this video. I think a disaster season for Sonny Gray is still a 4.142 ERA, but I think there's a chance he can have a sub-3 ERA this year, and it could be a very popular trade piece this year at the deadline. Also surprised that a lot of people don't have this pitcher in their top 25 rankings, and that's going to be Luis Castillo of the Seattle Mariners. I feel like Sonny Gray, Castillo has been super reliable basically for the last decade. He was a multiple-time All-Star in Cincinnati, and since he got traded to the Seattle Mariners back in 2022, he's pitched to a 3.17 ERA in that season. Then he pitched to a 3.34 ERA in 2023. He finished top 5 in Cy Young voting and was an All-Star. And last year felt like a down year for Castillo, and he still pitched to a 3.64 ERA in 175 innings. The FIP has been creeping up every single year, and then you worry about a dip in velocity as well, as Castillo is getting up there in age now that he is 32 years old. But I still think we're in Castillo's prime, and he's going to be, once again, one of the best pitchers in the American League this season. So I have a couple guys coming up that I kind of have asterisks into their name as well, just because injuries could play a big part in their 2025 season. First one up, I'm taking the risk. He could be a top 20. He could even be a top 10 pitcher if he could stay healthy, and that's Tyler Glasnow of the Los Angeles Dodgers. Man, the Dodgers rotation is so stacked because they won the World Series last year with Glasnow on the IL, and he was so good before he got hurt. In 134 innings, which was the most of his career, he was an All-Star to a 3.49 ERA. He pitched to a 2.9 FIP. He's going to have a great defense behind him once again. He rarely walks guys, and I wanted to put him just higher. It's just we haven't seen him pitch over 150 innings in his career, and I do worry about that health in the second half of the year. There's a chance the Dodgers could monitor his innings yet again just with his previous injury history, and the Dodgers just having so much depth at the starting pitching position. But he's got a 32% K rate, a 6.7% walk rate last year. He can produce ground balls. He can keep the ball in the ballpark. I do think Glasnow has a ceiling of being an NL Cy Young if he could stay healthy. It's just something we've never seen before. It's also wild that last year was the first All-Star appearance of his career. Coming in at number 17, I do have somebody that's also entering a walk year, and that is Framber Valdez of the Houston Astros. Framber could be a free agent next year, and I do think this is one last hurrah for him in Houston, as him and the Astros could not agree to a contract extension before the season started. But Valdez has been very consistent in the 2020s. He has yet to have an ERA below 3.6 since that 2020 season. He's got multiple top 10 Cy Young finishes, including 3 straight years. He's going to give you around 180 innings every year, and he's just going to be super reliable for you out there, and that does produce to the wins above replacement statistic. Last year at a 4.4 B-WAR, and I think yet again he could be someone that can carry this Astros rotation, but this year he's going to have a little bit more help with Hunter Brown, who we've already talked about. Another guy that I have just multiple asterisks next to his name, because if he could stay healthy, he could still be the best pitcher in baseball at 36 years old. I just don't know if there's going to be a heavy innings restriction for him this year. And that is going to be Jacob deGrom of the Texas Rangers, who's finally fully healthy. We saw him look phenomenal at the end of last year's season, and somebody that's a Mets fan, I just want to see him succeed. I want to see him in the Hall of Fame because he's one of the best pitchers of the last 15 years. The only thing that is holding him back from being the definitive undisputed best pitcher has been health. He went on a crazy run from 2018 to 2021 for the Mets. He signed with the Rangers in 2023 and then had Tommy John basically right away. He comes back last year and looked phenomenal in just 10 innings. But he has some of the best command in baseball, still has insane velocity for somebody at his age with multiple major arm surgeries. And if DeGrom can give you 120 to 130 innings this year, he could be one of the best pitchers in baseball. I'm just being a little bit conservative with these guys that have major health question marks. Because the last guy that has health question marks that we're going to talk about is my number 15 pitcher, somebody that can be a top 5 pitcher in baseball. He looked like a top 3 pitcher in baseball before he got injured last year, and that is Spencer Strider of the Atlanta Braves. Strider was phenomenal when he got called up in 2022, where he had a 2.67 ERA, 131 innings, and he was striking out 14 guys per 9. He basically carried that over into 2023. He had 20 wins, not like those matter that much anymore. Still impressive though either way. 186 innings, 281 strikeouts, led MLB. He had a 2.85 FIP, also led MLB, and led the MLB in strikeouts per 9. He finished 4th in Cy Young voting and only pitched in 9 innings in 2024. If Strider can look like 80% of what he did in 2023, he can easily be a top 15 pitcher in baseball. I think his first year in the league was going to be a transition year, coming over to the MLB after signing a massive contract with the Dodgers in the 2023 offseason, and that is Yoshinobu Yamamoto coming in at 14. As Yamamoto in 2024 just pitched in 18 games, he threw 90 innings but had 129 ERA plus. He striked out 10 guys per 9, only walked 2 batters per 9, and looked great to start off this season as well. I do expect year number 2 of him being in the majors, he's going to throw for over 120 innings just as long as he could stay healthy. And yeah, I'd love to see him throw 150 innings as well this year, because if he can easily finish top 5 in NL Cy Young voting. And this Dodgers rotation is just so good, and we still have another player to mention in that starting rotation. It's actually unfair. But like Framber Valdez, Luis Castillo, and Sonny Gray, my next pitcher is just super reliable every single year. Coming in at number 13, I have Logan Webb of the San Francisco Giants. He isn't going to strike out as many players as somebody like a Spencer Strider or a Jacob deGrom will, but he can produce ground balls. He's going to get guys out. He can go deep in games. Over the last 3 years, he has thrown over 190 innings every single year and over 200 innings each of the last 2 years. You just don't really see that often in the MLB anymore. He finished second in Cy Young voting in 2023 and then 6th in Cy Young voting last year. Since becoming a full-time starter, he's never pitched to a below 3.5 ERA, and I think yet again he's going to be one of the most underappreciated pitchers in baseball. He's not going to strike out a ton of guys, but he's going to get guys out, and he's just going to be somebody that has a super high floor every single year. So he's coming in at number 13. Another super reliable guy that had maybe a down year last year, but it was still a good year, Zach Gallen of the Arizona Diamondbacks, coming in at number 12. In 2020, Gallen finished top 10 in Cy Young voting. In 2022, he finished 5th in Cy Young voting. And in 2023, finished 3rd in Cy Young voting. Last year, like I said, maybe it was a down year for Gallen, but still pitched to a 3.65 ERA. He was dealing with some injuries throughout the season, but now, even though he's getting the opening day start, he's pitching in one of the best rotations and one of the deeper rotations in baseball. Gallen's got 5 really good pitches. He throws his 4-seamer about 46% of the time, his curve 28% of his time, his changeup 14% of his time, slider 9%, and cutter 3%. And I think once again is going to be one of the better pitchers in the National League. And this is a big year for Padres pitchers because they have somebody that can also be a free agent at the end of the year, and that is Dylan Cease. And I think Dylan Cease is going to have a phenomenal walk year for the San Diego Padres. He didn't have the best finish in his Chicago White Sox days after fully breaking out as one of the best pitchers in baseball in 2022 and finishing runner-up in Cy Young voting. He led the MLB in pitcher war that year, and last year kind of reverted back to what he did in 2022 in 2024 with the Padres. He had a 3.47 ERA in 189 innings, and it was cool. He also threw a no-hitter last year. He finished 4th in Cy Young voting, and he's somebody that could produce a ton of whiffs as well. He's going to strike out a ton of guys. He's got great velocity, and he just misses out on my top 10 coming in at number 11. I got one of my favorite pitchers leading off the top 10 here. I was looking into him when he got traded for Aroldis Chapman a couple years ago in my Dynasty Baseball League, and I picked him up, and it's been a great move ever since. Coming in at number 10, I have Cole Ragans of the Kansas City Royals, one of the best left-handed pitchers in the league. He really broke out for Kansas City at the end of the 2023 season. 2.64 ERA, coming off multiple Tommy John surgeries, and his first full sample size as a starter in 2024. 186 innings, a 3.14 ERA. Led this Kansas City rotation into the playoffs in the divisional series. He finished 4th in Cy Young. He led the MLB in strikeouts per 9 with 10.8 over the course of the year. So he's somebody like Dylan Cease that can produce a ton of whiffs as well and can really limit hard hits, and he can just go deep in games. And I think if he can stay healthy this year, he could pitch over 200 innings. And a lot of these guys in my top 15, I could totally see winning the Cy Young this year. It is going to be tough in the American League because I do think there's somebody that is just so good at the top, but somebody I am so high on in the 2025 season, coming in at number 9. He's another Seattle Mariners pitcher, and I've already talked about Kirby and Castillo. Not going to talk about Bryce Miller or Bobby Wu. I'm going to talk about Logan Gilbert. Yeah, I think he can emerge as a top 10 pitcher in the league this year. If you don't already think he's a top 10 pitcher already, because he's been somebody that's been so reliable since 2022. 3.2 ERA that year, 3.73 ERA in 2023, and last year was phenomenal for the Mariners. Over 200 innings. He doesn't walk anybody. A 3.23 ERA. He's another pitcher that could just produce a ton of whips. He's going to strike guys out. He's going to limit his walks, and he's going to limit his hard-hitting contact, and has just one of those arm angles that can really provide such a challenge for opposing hitters. I'm just so excited to watch the Seattle Mariners rotation yet again. I just hope that George Kirby can get healthy very soon. I'm a little skeptical about my next guy playing in a new ballpark that is very hitter-friendly, and that is Max Fried coming in at number 8. I do think Max Fried is turning somewhat underrated. Since he really debuted back in 2017, he's been one of the best pitchers in baseball, and outside of an injury-riddled 2023 season and maybe a rough start to 2024, Fried is still one of the more reliable pitchers in the league. He had a 2.25 ERA in 2020. In 2021, he threw for 165 innings, a 3.04 ERA, and helped the Braves win a World Series that year. And I know he's not one of the best postseason pitchers of all time, but he's just been reliable for the Braves outside of that injury-riddled 2023 season. I think the Yankees are getting one of the best pitchers in baseball, and I'm super excited to watch him over there in New York, especially with Garrett Cole, who's not making this list because he is out for the year. I think Fried can really emerge as that top guy in New York and could probably be the best pitcher overall in New York. I don't think that's really a hot take. And then somebody that just gets it done. It's not pretty. He doesn't go deep into games, and he walks a ton of guys, but he just gets it done. And that is Blake Snell, who signed with one of the smarter, if not the most smartest franchises in the league in the offseason of the LA Dodgers. Yeah, like I said, Blake Snell just gets it done. He won a Cy Young in 2018 with the Rays. He won a Cy Young with the Padres in 2023, and he was hurt to start off the 2024 season with the Giants, but was phenomenal when he pitched for them. Also threw a no-hitter as well. The Dodgers are going to get a ton out of him. He's going to play with a great defense behind him. He loves to throw the fastball. He throws the cutter as well, and he's just going to be a reliable pitcher for the Dodgers because they have so many pitchers every year that get hurt. And Blake Snell, although he was hurt to start off last year, still threw for over 100 innings and has been very reliable since 2017. Another pitcher that changed teams in the offseason, third one in a row, I have Corbin Burnes of the Arizona Diamondbacks coming in at number 6. Now, there was some underlying metrics I didn't love Corbin Burnes, especially in the second half last year. For the Baltimore Orioles, you do worry about a velocity drop, but I think Burnes is going to be just fine in Arizona. Even what could feel like a down year for Burnes, he still finished 5th in Cy Young voting. He did win Cy Young with the Brewers in 2021. Do not tell Phillies fans that, but he's been one of the best pitchers in baseball basically for the last half decade. His hard hit percentage against is 31.6, which ranks top 5 in the MLB. He's somebody that's just so tough to hit against every single night because of that cutter that he throws 22% of the time, and it is one of the best pure pitches in baseball. All right, so kicking off the top 5, I gotta respect the 2024 NL Cy Young winner. Shout out to the Braves for turning his career around. It was just so nice to see him healthy again and turn back into one of the best pitchers in baseball. I got Chris Sale. I did not have Chris Sale winning 18 games, having a 6.2 BWAR and a 2.38 ERA on my 2024 MLB season bingo card, but I'm really glad that it happened because Sale was one of the more electric pitchers in baseball when he was in Chicago, and he really gave it his all in that 2017 and 2018 season for the Boston Red Sox, and he really hasn't been healthy for 5 years. And this is something that you don't see very often because usually when these pitchers are banged up this much, their careers are sadly over, or they're never going to go back to what they were in their prime. But we saw vintage prime Chris Sale last year turn back to one of the best pitchers in baseball, and I do think he's still going to be one of the best pitchers in baseball this year. I would be shocked if he went back-to-back with Cy Young awards. We haven't seen that since Jacob deGrom when he was in his prime with the New York Mets. I got 2 other NL pitchers that I want to talk about. But coming in at number 4, a player that gets a ton of comparisons to Chris Sale, and he's following that exact career path right now. I predicted him to be my AL Cy Young winner, which I think there is still some risk to it, but I got Garrett Crochet coming in at number 4. I think I'm hedging my bet here, having Garrett Crochet as my number 4 pitcher, but not my top AL pitcher because I did predict him to win AL Cy Young, but last year he was so good in the first half for the Chicago White Sox before they limited his innings, and he's going to be the best pitcher the Boston Red Sox have had since aforementioned Chris Sale, another guy that just gets a ton of whiffs. He's going to limit hard hit contact. His career high, though, in innings is 146, so I do wonder if he would go over 170-ish innings this season, and that could limit him from winning Cy Young this season. But in those 170 innings, he could be the best pitcher in baseball. Coming in at number 3, maybe a hot take, I got Paul Skeens of the Pittsburgh Pirates coming in as my number 3rd pitcher this year. Now, there's definitely a high chance that he could be the best pitcher in baseball this year, because Paul Skeens last year was one of the best pitchers. He finished 3rd in Cy Young voting as a rookie, a 1.96 ERA, a 5.9 WAR in just 133 innings. If he can go on that pace, there's a chance he can have over 7 WAR this year. That is like prime Sandy Alcantara numbers from his Cy Young season. And he can go up against anybody in baseball and look like the best pitcher in the league. His fastball is basically unhittable at times, and I do think I'm being a little bit conservative here, but I would love to see him win Cy Young for the Pirates. So coming in at number 2, I have Tariq Skubal, the 2024 AL Cy Young winner, and he's the only thing stopping Garrett Crochet from winning AL Cy Young, in my opinion, because last year was so good after a breakout 2023 season. Another pitcher like Cole Reagans, who looked so good in the second half if he could have stayed healthy, because he was kind of breaking out in that 2022 season as well. Last year, his numbers are just video game-esque. A 2.39 ERA, led the MLB in strikeouts, ERA plus, FIP, WAR in the AL, and was the best pitcher in baseball, in my opinion. And he's somebody that can go deep into games. He threw 192 innings last year. I could definitely see him getting over 200 innings this year, and I think he can go back to back, like I said before, for the first time since DeGrom. But coming in at number 1, somebody that I think's been the best pitcher in baseball when you take into account injuries, because Garrett Cole went down, Alcantara went down, everybody's kind of been hurt, including Jacob DeGrom, but this player has been so reliable in the regular season and in the postseason. He is turning into one of the best postseason pitchers we have seen this generation, and that is Zach Wheeler of the Philadelphia Phillies. I'm a Mets fan. I was so sad when the Wilpons were just cheap and they didn't want to pay him. I thought the Phillies maybe overpaid for him at the time, and he's been one of the best pitchers in the league since joining Philadelphia in 2021. He maybe should have won that Cy Young award back in 2021. Last year, he finished runner-up, but it's basically the postseason pitching numbers that make me put him as my number 1 pitcher this year, because the Phillies are always going to have a chance in the postseason when he's on the mound. He's thrown 70 postseason innings to a 2.18 ERA. That is insane. And just because we haven't really seen Skeens in the playoffs or Crochet in the playoffs, that's why I'm kind of limiting them to be better than Zach Wheeler this year, because maybe he's not going to be as good as those guys in the regular season, but it's the postseason stuff that's going to put him over the hump for my list. So that's going to be it for me. I hope you guys did enjoy. Let me know what you agree with or disagree with down below. If you want to give me your top 5 or top 10 pitchers, I'd love to see them. And drop a thumbs up if you guys want to see my top 25 hitters before the season starts as well. Hit that subscribe button if you were not already. I'll catch you guys in the next one. Peace.